Hello, hello, hello. Hope you're having a good evening. Today, I want to take you through my DVD and Blu-ray collection. So I have a whole stack of Blu-rays here. I have a drawer full of DVDs and another drawer full of DVDs. This side is for movies, plus where I can fit that, and this side is for television series. So I'm going to start with the movies, and we'll start with the Blu-rays here. So I keep them separate, really for no particular reason other than the size is different. A DVD case is longer than a Blu-ray case, so for the sake of keeping things organized and neatly together, I've organized them a little separately. So hopefully it's not too dark here for you to see. But first up, we can look at this one here. This is Fargo. It's a Coen Brothers film, and it is a dark comedy. It's about crime and criminals and a, I believe, North Dakotan police officer. I think Fargo is in North Dakota, but they're in Minnesota, I want to say. I don't know. American geography is not my forte. But if you haven't seen it, it's an excellent comedy by the Coen Brothers. And I probably won't pull too many of these out simply because I only have one hand to use and hard to really place them so you can see. But below Fargo we have There Will Be Blood, which is a Paul Thomas Anderson film. It's an excellent film. Maybe not my favorite of what I've seen of Paul Thomas Anderson. To be fair, I haven't seen very many. But a very, very good film starring Daniel Day-Lewis and Paul Dano. Below that we have Drive, which is directed by Nicholas Winding Refn and starring Ryan Gosling and Carey Mulligan and Oscar Isaac. Probably the first Oscar Isaac film I saw. He very quickly became one of, if not my favorite actor. I'd say one of at this point. He was my favorite for a very long time. Below that we have All the President's Men, which is a Pacula film. I can't remember his first name. Pacula. And it's a 1970s political thriller, which is one of my favorite genres. Really in its peak in the 70s. This one in particular is about the Watergate scandal and about the two Washington Post journalists, Woodward and Bernstein, who uncovered the conspiracy that Nixon orchestrated the Watergate break-in. Really interesting movie, very tense. Then we have one of my favorites, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. It's a Guy Ritchie film starring Henry Cavill and Alicia Vikander and some other actors. Sort of, I haven't watched it in a while, probably since the Armie Hammer stuff happened. I don't know if it ruins it for me or not, but it holds a special place in my heart. Back when it came out in 2015, it was a biggie for me, and one that I would have loved to see some sequels from, and I think that was one of the original intentions that Guy Ritchie had, but I don't think it did well enough for Warner Brothers to want to make more. I don't think it made enough money. And then we have Interstellar, which is a Christopher Nolan film starring Matthew McConaughey, Jessica Chastain. Who else is in it? Anne Hathaway. I think Matt Damon also makes an appearance. It's one I actually haven't rewatched in a while, but it really struck me when I watched it the first time. It's one I think I might revisit sooner. It's a really great time travel movie, space movie. Really interesting. And Nolan loves making films about time. seems obsessed. He loves time, and he loves writing main characters with terrible wives or dead wives or what have you. He's got a thing about wives. And then we have a more classic Hollywood film, Sunset Boulevard. Sunset Boulevard, let me try and remember who's in this. I want to say Gloria Swanson. I don't know if that's the right name. Yes, here we are. Gloria Swanson, William Holden. So, am I recalling correctly that this is Billy Wilder, or am I crazy? Let's see if we can tell here. Hopefully this focus is okay. Does not seem like it is. Hold on a second. I might have to look myself off camera. Let's see. Who directed you? Oh yes, directed by Billy Wilder and co-written by Billy Wilder. So this is sort of a classic Hollywood film about a woman who was a silent movie star and is now in sort of past her prime, but still trying to capture her glory days as a star. And she sort of entraps William Holden, and things kind of go awry from there. Really interesting film. We'll just put her up top. And then we have Knives Out, which is a Rian Johnson film. Huge cast, huge ensemble cast, an excellent mystery. I love Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc, probably one of my favorite movie characters. I love a detective story. I love his goofy accent. I think it's an excellent film, and I enjoyed the sequel, but Knives Out is definitely the better of the two. I'm really looking forward to, though, the third movie that's coming out, which I believe is called Wake Up Dead Man. I think it's coming out next year. Not sure when exactly, but from the little that we've seen of it, which is, I think, a couple on-set photos of Daniel Craig with long hair, which is, you know, a different look for him and for the character, and that title card. I think that's all we've seen of it so far, but I'm excited. Excited for the cast as well. So, next over here we have my David Lynch Criterion Blu-rays. We have Blue Velvet, which stars Kyle MacLachlan and Laura Dern, and it's sort of set in an idyllic suburban town where there's some seedy things happening below that perfect image that our main character Kyle MacLachlan uncovers and sort of leads him into this strange noir story. Really interesting movie. And then we have Mulholland Drive, which is a more recent. So Blue Velvet's I think 80s. Mulholland Drive was I think early 2000s, very early 2000s. It is about a girl going to Hollywood and sort of trying to become a star in some way, and it's really hard to describe the plot of Mulholland Drive, I'm realizing, because it sort of has a dreamscape narrative, or is it alternate realities? Is it a cyclical narrative where a choice is changed and so the story changes? It's peculiar, but it's really interesting. I've only watched it the one time. Might be worth revisiting. And then we have The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, which is a Wes Anderson film. One of my favorites, I think. Like, it's sort of an underrated Wes Anderson. Stars Bill Murray as Steve Zissou, and he's sort of a is it Cousteau? Jacques Cousteau? Sort of that kind of marine explorer figure, and sort of follows his life as he tries to find, I can't remember what is he trying to find, the like leopard shark what was it called? Not jaguar shark, is it? It's a type of animal that does not exist. Let's see. I don't think I can focus when I'm in a wide angle like this, so I'll just have to read it myself. I'll try and read it to you here. Internationally famous oceanographer Steve Zissou and his crew set sail on an expedition to hunt down the mysterious, elusive, possibly non-existent jaguar shark that killed Zissou's partner during the documentary filming of their latest adventure. They're joined on their voyage by a young airline co-pilot, Owen Wilson, a pregnant journalist, Kate Blanchett, and Zissou's estranged wife, Angelica Houston. Wes Anderson has assembled an all-star cast that also includes Willem Dafoe, Jeff Goldblum, Michael Gambon, Noah Taylor, Zoo George, Bud Cort for this wildly original adventure comedy. So, big ensemble film with a lot going on, but it's very fun, and I love especially the set design of their submarine. It's beautiful. It's there's I think some miniatures, but it's also practical, like soundstage built. Let's see if I can pop this open if it has any images. Oh, I think there's a big old poster in here actually. Oh, isn't that nice? So here's the disc, but also I can kind of show you behind the disc is a illustration of the, but I guess not a submarine. Where is it? Was it a submarine? No, just a boat. Just a boat. There is a submarine that launches off of it, a little explorer, but this is the boat. So the way it's filmed in the movie is it's just like that. It's sort of cut away like a miniature or like a dollhouse. And I really, really love that. I think it's so cool. So that's Life Aquatic. Then here we have Looper, another time travel film. I really should put it with Interstellar and Knives Out, because this is also directed by Rian Johnson. So it's a really interesting time travel movie. I don't want to give too much away because I think it's fun to see fresh. But stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis, as well as Emily Blunt and some other actors. Really interesting, sort of. It doesn't do a lot of world building, which I think is nice. It sort of lets you discover the future as it goes on. And then we have The Muppets. So this is I don't remember what year it came out, like 2011, whichever newer Muppets movie with Amy Adams and Jason Segel, and of course the Muppets. It's a really great movie. I think Jason Segel, I believe, wrote it, or maybe co-wrote. He had some, I think, creative decision-making role as well as starring in it, and I think he really understood what Disney could do with the Muppets, and then they sort of dropped the ball. I think Muppets Most Wanted was okay. For me, it was fine. And then since then, Disney really hasn't been doing, in my opinion, enough with the Muppets. I watched later, after it had already been canceled, the Muppets sort of office based show that Disney had created. I think it was on ABC at the time, and now it's on Disney Plus. And there was some fun stuff going on there. They were doing something interesting there. Parts of it didn't work, but there was some really, really great stuff in that show. So I think, I don't know if audiences aren't, if the mass audience appeal isn't there, if it's only really the Muppet heads like me who are really looking for better Muppet-based material. But since then they had like a weird like pandemic Zoom kind of web series show that was on Disney Plus that was not good. I tried to watch it. It didn't work for me. And then they did that Haunted Mansion movie, And it didn't work for me primarily because they have Gonzo, and I love Gonzo. But pairing him with Pepe is a poor replacement for Rizzo. And if you want me to get, maybe I'll do a separate video on a Muppets rant here about what happened to the Muppets and what happened to Kermit, what happened to Rizzo, sort of in a post Jim Henson world. But essentially, I don't think the Gonzo Pepe pairing is as comedically fulfilling and effective as the Gonzo Rizzo pairing. And I think also the movie just structurally didn't work. I'll save this for another video. I'll save it for a Muppets based rant video. You know what? I can show you guys in that video my Muppets memorabilia. I have a small collection of Muppets merchandise, most of it found in my family home basement because we never threw out anything. So there's a lot of random Muppets things. I've got some plush guys, I've got some like Happy Meal toys. So in another video I think I'll go through that and we'll talk Muppets there, because I don't need this to be too long. But anyway, all that to say that this Muppets movie is very good for a newer Muppets film. It's quite good. It sort of revitalized the Muppets in a lot of ways at that time. Alright, back to the rest of the movies. Here we have Casablanca. This is, oh my goodness, who directed Casablanca? Was it Elia Kazan? No, surely not. Let's remind myself who directed Casablanca. I want to say it was Elia Kazan. Let's see. Well, we'll just go through all of the key details here. So it stars Humphrey Bogart, Ingrid Bergman, Paul Hunreid, with Claude Rains, Conrad Veidt, Sidney Greenstreet, Peter Lorre. Oh, Michael Curtiz. Michael Curtiz directed it. So Michael Curtiz, to my memory, was sort of a just working director. He directed a lot of different movies, and I think Casablanca just happens to be one of them. Just kind of funny that sort of one of the movies that's considered, maybe the greatest love story of all time, one of the greatest classical Hollywood films of all time, was just directed by some guy. It's sort of interesting. Not to say he hasn't done a lot of great films, but I think for a long time he was just average director in the studio system, directing what was given to him. Alrighty, and then finally here we have Pride and Prejudice. So this is I believe 2005. I know all of my Pride and Prejudice friends are going to be yelling at me what year it came out, but I think it was 2005. But it stars Keira Knightley and, oh goodness, what's his name? Matthew McFadyen. I think it was 2005. Well, we'll never know, I guess. But essentially I say that to not confuse it with other Pride and Prejudice adaptations. But it's an excellent movie. Excellent adaptation. I enjoy it, and I enjoy the 1995 Colin Firth BBC miniseries as well. I think they're both great. But of course, this one has the hand flex, which is an important moment in cinema history. So, those are all my Blu-rays, and they sit up here very nicely. Behind them are my old CDs, and we don't need to go through those today, but they sit back there because I don't know what else to do with them. A lot of them hold sentimental value. I've gotten rid of the ones that don't, so they just sit there. I have no purpose for them. I don't own anything that has a CD drive. I used to have an old iMac that had one, but since I got rid of it, my laptop doesn't have one, my MacBook for work doesn't have one, my car doesn't have one, so at a loss for those guys. As an aside, it's unrelated to this section of my console unit, but this is where my Buffy the Vampire Slayer complete collection sits. So we'll pull it out just to give you a sneak peek. So I bought this recently as a little treat for myself. I think I bought it around my birthday because I was getting back into Buffy. You know, I've watched it a couple times through, maybe twice through, 2.5 times through, and now I'm going through it again. So let's call it twice through, and I'm on the third rewatch. And why did I buy it? I think I realized with streaming, it's sort of easy to be complacent about, oh, well, the thing I want to watch is there. I don't have to own a copy. It's always going to be there. But I don't trust streaming services. Things come and go way too easily, even if the company owns the license. You know, even though Disney bought Fox and really owns all of its backlog or back catalog, I don't trust it's going to be that way forever. I like the peace of mind of knowing I have Buffy anytime I want to watch it. I don't have to rely on Disney to have it for me. And I think it's nice to collect my favorites. You know, I don't have to buy the television series of anything I want to watch, you know, on a whim. But the ones I really, really love, I could keep. And when we get to my television series collection, we'll talk about a few of those. Because there's some that, you know, I might not want to rewatch all the time. But I like having them, you know, just the sentimental value even. Alrighty, so here we have the DVD collection. So separate from the Blu-rays are the DVDs. And so in this drawer, I have them organized alphabetically, starting from A all the way to W. I don't have any that start with Z, unfortunately. And then some that don't quite fit in that because I'm kind of full up here. So I only have room for 2 rows across like this. The rest sort of end up in the side, but that's okay. So most of these I've thrifted. And so eventually I might need to weed it out a bit if I intend to keep buying DVDs, but we'll see. But let's go through them. We'll just kind of scan through one by one. I might pull out interesting ones to show you, but for now, we'll just start at the beginning. So, up at the top here, we have Angels and Demons. It is the second Da Vinci Code movie. I think it's a prequel, but it is the second movie. After that, we have Atonement, very sad movie, based on a novel by a man whose name I forget, but starring Keira Knightley and James McAvoy and Saoirse Ronan, as well as some other actors, but mostly those 3. Then we have The Aviator, which is a biopic about, I want to say not Howard Hawks. What's his name? Let's see if we can, oh, it's really stuck. Hopefully I don't bend it too much here. Ooh. I guess we'll never know. But about a man he was a pilot, he was an aviator. He later bought Archaea Studios and tried to be a filmmaker. He was friends with Katharine Hepburn, and then he went a little crazy and became a recluse, and his life sort of spiraled. I think he got better, but I don't actually remember. But stars Leonardo DiCaprio and it's directed by Martin Scorsese. So after that, we're into the B's here with Beetlejuice, a Halloween classic. I saw the sequel, Beetlejuice, a few months ago, and it was very strange. And I feel like it couldn't decide what story it wanted to tell. It basically had 3 separate plots happening, and each one was very easily resolved at the end. It was really odd, but a fun time. Then we have a Steven Spielberg film here, Catch Me If You Can, also starring Leonardo DiCaprio, as well as Tom Hanks. So quite a few familiar faces here between these first few films. Here we have a 2-for-1 that I found thrifting. It's Charade and the film Amazing Adventure, both starring Cary Grant. So Charade I'd seen before, and Amazing Adventure I'd never heard of. So they're kind of interesting additions there. Below that we have the musical Chicago, followed by Constantine, which if you're unfamiliar, it stars Keanu Reeves as a demon hunter. There he is. And he's alongside Rachel Weisz hunting demons. Then we have, here's Da Vinci Code. Sits right there. Followed by Donnie Darko. So this is one, as a kid, I had such a crush on Jake Gyllenhaal when I was like 12. I can't even tell you. And I can't explain it anymore because now I find him kind of, I don't know. He's fine. This is a really, really peculiar movie. I don't think I could even try to explain it, but basically about a boy named Donnie Darko who one day a plane engine falls through his house into his bedroom, where he luckily is not, and sort of follows him as, you know, things like time starts to bend around him and he figures out sort of the odd happenings. And it's a strange sort of science fiction-y film, but it's also not. It's sort of metaphysical. It's really strange. Anyway, below that we have the greatest films in cinema history. We have 2 Ernest films and then an Ernest collection. We have Ernest Saves Christmas, and then we have a 3-set of Ernest Goes to Camp, Ernest Scared Stupid, and Ernest Goes to Jail. I can't explain how much fun I think the Ernest films are. I think they're just so goofy, so silly. I think Jim Varney is a very talented character actor, and I think, you know, people should appreciate what he gave us when he made these Ernest films and the Ernest advertisements, which are really funny. Pardon me. Here we have Far From Heaven, which is a Todd Haynes film. I still haven't watched it actually, but one of my favorite video essayists, Be Kind Rewind, made a video about Todd Haynes, and I thought it was super interesting. We have Ferris Bueller's Day Off, an 80s classic, John Hughes classic. We have Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2, both together. Goodfellas, another Scorsese film. Good Will Hunting, which I should rewatch that. I haven't seen it in quite a while, but I remember really liking it when I was in early university. And we have Gosford Park, which is like a mystery, sort of upstairs downstairs intrigue kind of film. We have the Grand Budapest Hotel, which is a Wes Anderson classic, one of my favorites from him. Inglourious Basterds, a very fun Quentin Tarantino film. Another one I should rewatch, actually. I haven't seen that in a long time. We have Inside Llewyn Davis, which is one of my favorite Coen Brothers films. It stars Oscar Isaac and Carey Mulligan and Justin Timberlake, of all people. And it has a really excellent scene between Oscar Isaac, Justin Timberlake, and Adam Driver. Really great musical scene. So the film is about folk music. It stars Oscar Isaac as like a real try-hard folk musician who gets in a little bit of trouble, and everyone sort of hates because he's sort of a piece of shit. But you root for him, you know. And then we have Kill Bill, Volume 1 and Volume 2. I feel so sad that I have to keep the Quentin Tarantino separated. Part of the challenge of alphabetizing these is that films by the same director I have to keep separate. For a time, I did organize them that way, but then you have all the leftovers, and then they don't make sense. So this is the most sort of equal way to organize them. Back here, we have Lincoln, which is a Steven Spielberg film. I mostly thrifted that one and chose to buy it because it is not streaming anywhere right now, and it's one I've been meaning to watch for quite a while, and I missed my chance when it was streaming, so I figure no harm in owning a Steven Spielberg film. Even if I don't love it, there's still value in that. And we have Marie Antoinette, directed by Sofia Coppola. We have the Matrix trilogy, another one I've really been meaning to rewatch that lately. I've seen it a few times, mostly the first one I've seen quite a few times. I think I've seen the full trilogy maybe a handful of times, but I think a full rewatch is needed. And then I think I really should get the fourth one, Resurrections. I didn't love Resurrections, but I kind of loved it for what it was, if that makes sense. It's strange, but I enjoyed it. We have Miller's Crossing, which is another Coen Brothers film. I think Coen Brothers might be my favorite directors. I really wish they'd get back to directing together. I'm trying to remember what their last film together was. I think their last film together was The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, which was a what do you call it? Oh shoot! A film where it's multiple smaller stories, like a anthology. That's the word. It was an anthology film, which isn't my favorite type of filmmaking. I'd prefer that they made just a normal feature length together. The work that they've done independently, I haven't loved necessarily. I don't remember who did what. I think Joel Cohen made Macbeth, which I thought was very good. And then I think Ethan Cohen directed Drive Away Dolls and maybe co-wrote it. And I was less enthused with that. So I'd really love for them to get back to writing and directing together. I think they do their best work together, and I think we're sorely missing more Coen brothers in cinema right now. But anyway, following that, we have Miss Congeniality, which is a classic for me. It's one that I watched with my mom a lot when I was a kid. It's a very fun movie. I still really love it. I think Sandra Bullock is fantastic in it. I think Michael Caine is fantastic in it. So many great performances, and it's just a very fun movie. Even for something that came out, I think, early 2000s? I think it holds up fairly well. Then we have Moulin Rouge. This is one that my dad's coworker had, I think, bought together. They'd bought this and Romeo plus Juliet and Strictly Ballroom, but they only wanted Strictly Ballroom from that set of 3. So I ended up with this lovely Moulin Rouge edition. So it was given to me by my dad. It's just like, hey, Danielle said they didn't really want this. Do you want it? And I was like, sure, okay, whatever. I didn't really care about Romeo plus Juliet. I'd seen it before, I think in like grade 7 or 8, we watched it because we were in our drama class. We were learning, I don't remember why, we were learning random scenes from Romeo and Juliet, which is odd because we did Romeo and Juliet in high school, so I'm not sure why that was. Sorry, I'm just gonna get comfortable here, sitting on the ground too long. So my dad gave it to me, and I think I watched it almost immediately because I was of an age where I was like, ooh, Ewan McGregor, handsome man and pretty lady in a romantic musical. Even if I wouldn't admit it, I was intrigued. I said, let me take a look, and then I was emotionally devastated. It was so sad. But I still really love it. It's so silly and goofy. It's so campy. I think it's just a ton of fun. Maybe someday I'll see the stage musical. What I don't like about the stage musical is that it incorporates different music. And I understand the point of a jukebox musical is to use, current or classic pop music. But I like the songs in this one. And I think they do use a lot of the core ones. Like they've got Roxanne and they've got like the original song in it, I think. Isn't there an original song, or am I misremembering? I think Come What May is an original song. Maybe it's not. Regardless. It's a lot of fun. Following that, we have The Mummy with Brendan Fraser or I think it's Brendan Fraser. Fraser? I think it's like Barbra Streisand, where there's a clear right way to say it, but everyone says it wrong. Anyway, Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz. An excellent adventure movie. And I love her 1920s eyebrows in this. I love the commitment to that aesthetic. Following that, we have Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, which is possibly my favorite Coen Brothers movie. In high school, my Comtech teacher, my communications technology teacher, had a big poster of Oh Brother, Where Art Thou in the classroom. And the desk I usually sat at was right below it. And I always looked at that and went, what is this movie? I don't understand. What is this? Let me actually see if, I don't remember if the cover matches what the poster was. Yeah, it was basically this image here of them running. And I said, what in the heck is this? And then eventually I watched it. I think not until much later. And I was like, well, this is a hoot and a holler. This is really fun. And then later in university, I took a course that was a course that was basically made so every time it was offered, it was about a different director. And so the year I took it, it was about the Coen brothers. And we watched it for that course, and I did a presentation on it. It's definitely solidified as one of my favorite Coen brothers, if not my number one favorite. Sorry if you hear some sound or some music in the background. It travels easily through my windows even when they're closed. After Oh Brother, we have Ocean's 11, an excellent Steven Soderbergh movie, and I like here that I have I think my only two George Clooney movies. Oh, I take that back. Inglourious Basterds, it's right there, but two of my favorite Clooney movies side by side. Then we have Paddington, a classic, this tiny little bear just trying to get through life. No Paddington 2, unfortunately, but someday. Then we have Red Eye, which is one of my absolute favorite guilty pleasure kind of movies. It's directed by Wes Craven, who, if you don't know, he made, what did he make? I think Nightmare on Elm Street and some other classic 80s horror. Let's take a look. Does it actually say? I don't even think it talks about Wes Craven on here, but I'll show you the cover. Very scary. So it's a thriller set on a plane where Rachel McAdams here encounters Cillian Murphy, and she essentially it's like having a hostage situation on a plane, yet no one knows it's happening. I think that's maybe the easiest way to explain it without giving away too much. So I recommend Red Eye, and it's very, very fast. Pacing is really good, and it's very, very good film. There we have Romeo plus Juliet. I rewatched this recently, actually, and I was sort of iffy on it. I feel like it's had a resurgence of people talking about it and really hyping hyping up Baz Luhrmann, and I do think his over-the-top style is fun, but I sort of lose it partway through. I think it's really good at the beginning, and then I sort of hit a lull. And then there's the death scene at the end, and it's like, whoa, this is incredible. But it sort of loses me at a certain point, but it's a fun time. I think if you haven't seen it, it's worth checking out. Followed by Saving Private Ryan, which is, I think, one of my favorite Spielbergs. I was about to say it's a ton of fun. It's not really fun. It's sort of devastating. But it's a really, really great film. It's intense at a lot of points, but that opening, I know everyone says it, but that opening scene on the beach is insane. It's incredible. Followed by The Shawshank Redemption, which is one I had never seen until I think just this year. And it really, I understand why it's been listed as, you know, one of the best films of all time on so many lists, and why people really love it. It's excellently made. Like, it's not a wasted moment, and it all adds up in the end, and it's really compelling. It's a really compelling film, and just so well crafted, if that makes sense. Then we have Shutter Island, which is one of my favorite Scorsese's. I think one that, I don't know if it's underrated or overrated, or I think it's often forgotten. I think it's sort of it's so recent that people sort of just shrug it off because, like, oh, well, it's no Goodfellas, you know? But I really like it, and I like the twists, and I think it's still compelling to watch, knowing the twists, because you can see it. You see the performances. You're like, this has another layer that I didn't know the first time I watched it. And then we have Sleepy Hollow. Probably up there for my favorite Tim Burton. I think Tim Burton's earlier work definitely better than what he's made more recently. Though I'll withhold judgment on Wednesday because I haven't seen it, but I've heard a lot of people really like that series. And even Beetlejuice wasn't quite the same Burton, I feel like. But in any case, I loved Sleepy Hollow. It's one that I saw on TV when I was a kid on Halloween, and at that time it was the scariest thing I'd ever seen. I was like, this is a horror movie. This is, you know, it's midnight and I shouldn't be watching this. But now as an adult, it's sort of funny, but it is fairly scary. The Headless Horseman, he's a scary man. I should have put the Headless Horseman on my Hear Me Out. That's a missed opportunity. Recently did a Hear Me Out cake with some friends, and I'm realizing that I forgot a key player, so I'll be adding that to my list. Then we have one of my absolute favorites from when I was a kid, Space Jam, or as the French call it, Basket Spatial. Is it good? No. Objectively, no, but I think it's incredible. Followed by another childhood favorite, Step Up 2, The Streets. This is, as of recording, the only Step Up movie I cannot find on streaming. And so when I found it thrifting, I had to buy it, because clearly the world is trying to keep Step Up 2, The Streets away from me. So this is when I watched with a camp friend of mine when we were about 11, maybe 12. She had it, she brought it, we watched it together at camp, and it was incredible. I just remember how, I think at the time, Low by Flo Rida, I think, was in this film, and it was still a big song. And no 11-year-old should be singing Flow by Flo Rida. That's just not right. Anyway, I still haven't rewatched it, but I think next time I do like a girls' night or like a classic girly pop sleepover, that's what we're gonna do. Then we have Sweeney Todd, another Tim Burton. She bought these together years and years and years ago at HMV, probably in high school. I was still in my Tim Burton era back then. And then we have Twilight. A friend of mine gifted me this for my birthday, which I thought was funny because probably not too many years ago, I got rid of all my Twilight DVDs. I had Twilight, New Moon, and maybe just Twilight and New Moon. I don't remember if I ever owned Eclipse. I might not have. But I thought it was funny. It's nice to have, you know? What if it goes away? At a minimum, I have to have Twilight. The best of all of them. And then we have Waiting for Guffman. This is a Christopher Guest mockumentary about a small town theater troupe who are putting on a play about the founding of their town. And they bring in this sort of hot shot who's really not director, who apparently knows a Broadway theater critic called Guffman. Hence the title here, Waiting for Guffman. They're waiting for this theater critic to come and see their show. So if you've never seen a Christopher Guest mockumentary, I'd say start with Best in Show. I think it's the most well-known of his mockumentaries, and it's a ton of fun. Best in Show is, of course, about a dog show. And I think that'll set you up well for the rest of his work. Oh, I put that in the wrong spot. Look at me. It's out of order now. Because Waiting for Guffman comes before our next film, if I could get this in here. After Waiting for Guffman comes Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So this is a classic. This is a Warner Brothers and Disney collaboration, and it takes a lot from classic noir, classic cartoons, and brings it in with all modern cartoons, and it's wonderfully made. So it's both live action and cell animated, and it's really, really impressive. And then we have Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. This is the Gene Wilder film, not to be confused with Willy Wonka, or sorry, not to be confused with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which is the Tim Burton film, and I believe the name of the original novel as well as Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So that concludes this section. We'll hop over here just briefly to talk about Big Fish. So this is another Tim Burton film. That's one I still haven't watched, but I've heard great things about. And I believe another one that's been adapted for the stage. I think there is a Big Fish musical or play out there as well. Then we have You've Got Mail as well, which is a classic rom-com. It's my favorite of the Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan rom-coms. And then up here is a special section. Let's just scoot these down. So this section is dedicated to Scooby-Doo. So these are some of my classic favorite Scooby-Doo movies. We have Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. We have Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost. And then we have the live-action Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? The complete series. So I do keep Scooby-Doo television series with the movies. Controversial maybe, but I've been building a collection, so they have to stay together. And then this one I actually still haven't watched. This is Trick or Treat Scooby-Doo. This is a newer Scooby-Doo movie, but I love the ode to classic animation style that they use. So it's a newer Scooby movie with some classic ghouls. And I meant to watch it around Halloween, but did not have the time. I went on vacation around Halloween, so missed out on that. But I think, I don't have to wait for Halloween to watch it. I might put that on later today. So, there you have my full DVD film collection, plus the Blu-rays. I hope you enjoyed. I got to learn a little bit about my film interests. I did study film in university, so fun for me to talk about. I do enjoy it a lot. Let me know in the comments if you see any of your favorites here, or if you see any that you absolutely hate here. I'm curious to know. And until next time, have a good day.